Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Test Those Breasts podcast. I am your host, Jamie Vaughn. I'm a retired teacher of 20 years and a breast cancer thriver turned staunch, unapologetic, loud supporter and advocate for others, bringing education and awareness through a myriad of medical experts, therapists, caregivers, and other survivors. A breast cancer diagnosis is incredibly overwhelming with the mounds of information out there, especially on Dr. Google. I get it. I'm not a doctor, and I know how important it is to uncover accurate information, which is my ongoing mission through my nonprofit. The podcast includes personal stories and opinions from breast cancer survivors and professional physicians, providing the most up-to-date information at the time of recording. Evidence, research, and practices are always changing, so please check the date of the recording and always refer to your medical professionals for the most up-to-date information. I hope you find this podcast a source of inspiration and support from my guests. Their contact information is in the show notes, so please feel free to reach out to them. We have an enormous breast cancer community ready to support you in so many ways. Now let's listen to the next episode of Test Those Breasts. Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to this episode of Test Those Breasts. I am your host, Jamie Vaughn, and today I am super honored to have my guest, Dr. Ryan Polselli, on my show. So Dr. Polselli is a fellowship-trained breast radiologist, U.S. Navy veteran, and the founder of MammoLink, one of Florida's fastest-growing mobile breast imaging companies. He's focused on rethinking breast cancer screening through mobile access, AI innovation, and patient-centered care, while also leading the Think Pink project to help expand breast health and access and education. Well, Dr. Polselli, it's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Jimmy. Please call me Ryan. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, I will call you Ryan. Thank you. I just always want to I always want to be mindful
Yeah.
of all of that stuff. So you and I had a wonderful chance to have a little pre-interview before this. You and I had a good connection and a good conversation. So I'm just really excited about having this conversation with you today. I would love to have you share with the audience. Let us know who Ryan is.
Sure. So I'm a Florida native and said I would do many things in life, but being a physician was never one of them. And then somehow I ended up in medical school and I said, well, I'll do anything except go into that radiology stuff. And I ended up there. And then I said, well, I'll do anything within radiology except breast imaging. And here I am. So I no longer make any predictions where I'm going to be. But I just fell in love with it. I went to Emory. I did my fellowship in breast imaging there. And then been in private practice in various forms and really kind of in the trenches, with breast imaging, screening, and diagnosis for, about a decade. And about the last 5 years, just really have gotten to the point where I got fed up with what I was seeing and said, there's a better way to do it. And tried to get my ideas across to a lot of different people. And, nobody was interested in hearing it. And I said, well, okay, I'll show you how to do it. And so started my own company, started with, just bootstrapped. Taking some money out of savings and bought a mobile mammo bus and said, we're going to do patient-centric care. And we're going to try to, get people to actually get their screening mammogram. Because what I was seeing is that about 50% of patients weren't getting a mammogram every year. And, So of course, we call it non-compliant. And, how many people have to be non-compliant before you say, well, maybe it's me? It's like if you're a teacher and 50% of your class fails, right? Is it, the dumb kids? Or is it, well, maybe I'm not a good teacher? And so, I wanted to avoid the hypocrisy and say, maybe we should do things a little bit differently and make an impact. And so that's what we're trying to do. And that's what the company's trying to do.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. I like your analogy. I'm a former teacher. I'm a retired teacher. And that is one thing that I got to. I got to the point where it's like, okay, if 50% of the kids are failing, what am I doing that I need to fix? Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. So, I do want to go back to you saying that when you got into radiology, you said definitely not breast.
Yeah.
What was in your mind at that point when you were thinking definitely not breasts? Why was that?
it just seemed like a boring specialty. And, and it was really just ignorance, because the first rotation that I did in it, I realized, wow, I didn't look up at the clock and it was 5 o'clock. And so I said, I must be enjoying myself.
Yeah.
And then really, I think what it was is that you could make a difference,
Yeah.
whereas a lot of the other specialties, it's kind of like, end of life care or something like that. Yes, you can make a difference, but not in the same way. This had hope, purpose,
Yeah.
and it was just so common, and it was every woman and every person. And so I found that, for me, it was like, well, I can work with this.
Yeah, far from boring, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Same with me. Like, I never knew that I would ever be working in this space. Who knew,
yeah,
right? I, retired from the school district and I was going
yeah,
to be podcasting for educators.
right,
And I did. I started a podcast specifically for educators, and that's what I was going to do. And all of a sudden, I get this breast cancer right after my retirement party. And it just completely changed my whole entire life.
right,
And it is anything but boring
yeah,
because it is such a prevalent disease that we have
yeah,
a problem with. Like, and it's not just women, it's men, all genders, right?
yeah,
Anyone, who has
yeah.
breasts. And so
And
there's
now
a
pretty much
lot.
every age.
Yeah, there's a lot. And yes, and that is one thing that I'm really focusing on right now with my new initiative that
Hmm.
is coming out is focusing on younger folks to try to
Hmm.
educate them before they ever even get breast cancer.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
because they're walking into the diagnosis with either knowing absolutely nothing or
Yeah.
very, very little,
Yeah.
right? So you had mentioned the system isn't built for simplicity, and I think people feel that. So, what's actually making something as important as screening so hard, and what are the biggest barriers that you're seeing?
Yeah. Well, I think it's two parts. I think the first part is that, screening is not acute. You don't have a gunshot wound, or you're not in the middle of a stroke where you're like willing to do anything at any moment just to get to the hospital and to get the care.
Yeah.
So it's out of sight, out of mind. You feel great. So you might have a cancer on the inside, and there's a sickness, but you don't feel ill. And I think that that's a totally different mentality than what the hospital system and where most of these screenings and things take place, which is the acute mentality and addressing acute problems. And so, for example, like CT chest, they're all, where are they? They're all in the hospital, and they're there because they were designed. Somebody's not able to breathe and they've been in a trauma. Do they have a collapsed lung? Is it a pneumonia? What is it? So they send them through the CT scanner, and that's their main use. And so they have this, they're overseen by the hospital systems and all the rules and all the regulations. And then, oh, by the way, it's also useful for screening. And so now you have this system that's in charge of screening, but the screening mentality is completely different. Nobody's going to come to this very difficult or this, obstructive setting when they feel great just for a
Mm,
screening. And
right.
so you really have to kind of, in my opinion, it should be completely separate. You have to move it outside. You have to move it to where people will be involved. So, you know, the easier it is, the more people get screened. The harder it is, the less they get screened. Period. End
Hmm.
of story. And so if we're at 50%, then the answer is easy. Make it easier. Maybe you have to chase the patients a little bit, offer incentives or something like that. But if you can do it, then you'll be much more effective. And it's not just, oh, we're going to move the number up from 50%. You're going to save a lot of lives,
Right, right.
which is huge.
Yes, definitely. And that's a very interesting way to look at it as
Yeah.
well. I never actually thought of it that way.
Mhm.
Um, so
Good.
people hear mobile mammography. And
Yeah.
I actually have talked to several people recently, even about mobile CT, mobile mammography. They think that's innovation.
Mhm.
But you said it's really not. So, what actually makes what you're doing different? And what does that experience look like for a patient from
Yeah.
start to finish?
Yeah. So really good question. And I've been thinking a lot about this because I get it all the time. Oh, you're a mobile company. And yeah, that's true. It's the most outwardly visible piece of what we're doing. So in order to be a patient centric company from a screening standpoint, you probably have to be mobile, because
Mhm.
without going there, you're not going to be able to be patient centric. But just being mobile doesn't make you patient centric. There are a lot of mobile companies, mobile buses, and things that still have obstructive systems in place or still require things or make it difficult or delay the diagnosis or don't give access to the education. So the mobile is a great start, but it's not enough. If you really want to change it, you have to make it completely patient centric in every way, shape, and form that you can. Take all those barriers to getting through the process, get rid of them completely, and then you're going to have a really successful screening program. So that's kind of my opinion on that.
Interesting.
That makes sense.
Um, so when a patient comes to you, first of all, how do they find you?
Yeah.
And I know you're in Florida,
Yeah.
so where else are you planning on being at some point? And when a patient does find you, what does that look like when they first are, filling out the paperwork, talking with you? What does that look like?
So I'm going to be maybe a little delusional here and I'd say I'd love to be all over the world, but I would like to be in every state at some point. If Florida continues to be, we're hopefully demonstrating that in a small scale. We have 5 buses now all around the state of Florida,
Okay.
Miami, all the way to North Florida. And we can prove the model is successful, then why wouldn't it be successful everywhere else?
Mhm.
And so that's what we're in the process of doing. There's a need all over the place. Now, patients come to us. This is kind of interesting because I've changed my opinion on this. When I first went into this, I thought, oh, the way to do this is you go directly to the patients, and you make it really successful, and then they'll eventually come. And I think that's true, but the longer strategy piece of this is I think we really actually have to attach ourselves to the organizations where people are,
Mhm.
and to break into them and to change their thinking. So, for example, one of the things that we're working on is we're developing a model that, let's say we serve, for example, a large Fortune 500 company or something like that. And we do some of their stores, and we see 20 of their stores regularly, and then we say at the end of that period, hey, look, we've found this many cancers because they were early. They actually answered that they wouldn't have been screened this year otherwise. That amounts to, I don't know, 50, 100,000, $1 million in savings, whatever the case may be. And we can convince the corporations and the places where people work, hey, this is a really good win-win-win for all of us.
Yeah.
My employees are healthier. They like it more. It's saving us money. Well, then they're going to let us be there every year. And if we're there every year, then of course we have access. And I think that's the key is getting people where they are in a single place
Mhm.
year after year. And so that's the goal. So
Yeah.
most of the time patients are now coming to us, from the organizations that we serve. School districts are a huge one. We're serving
Oh,
like, I think 15 school districts in Florida this year.
oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, yeah, and, actually, that's one of my favorite, and, it really just I have a minor in education, so, I actually was going to be a teacher, and then I tried that student teaching thing, and, kids ran all over me, and so so you
Yeah.
can relate, right? So I was like, "No,
Well, I
can't
was
do it."
gonna say that's why it's really important. I always tell people that before they go into teaching and even
Yeah,
student teaching and all of that is to go substitute teach for a while. I substitute taught for like 5 years.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
it's like, "Hey, you need to go do that first." And,
absolutely.
yeah, I actually
Yeah.
had someone tell me one time, "No, no, no, I don't wanna do that because I'm afraid that if I do that, I'm not gonna wanna go teach." And it's like, "What?" Like,
Let me think about that
okay,
one
that
for a
makes
minute.
total
Yeah.
sense. In the school districts, what
Yeah.
does that look like?
Yeah, so very similar. We usually work with like the central wellness coordinator for the
Mhm,
district, and then we set up a schedule where we go to all the schools. We'll see 2 schools a day typically.
mhm,
Show up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we pay for a substitute teacher so that they can get out of class and rotate through. And they come on the bus, and get screened. And that's actually one of our most successful programs because, again, we see them year after year after year, and they love it. Get out of class for a little bit and give them a cup of coffee and or whatever, and you know treat them really good.
yeah. Yeah. So when you're screening them, are you providing them some sort of education
Yeah,
as far as early detection? What kind of things to look for? Because this really resonates with me. I don't remember if I told you or not, but I'm a lemonista with Know Your Lemons. And if you don't know about that, I don't know if you do or
Yes,
not, but
no, I
yeah,
do, I do. We
yeah.
actually play their video on the buses.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
okay,
actually
great.
just for the school districts, yeah,
Yes.
and, one of those videos is just it's so well done.
Yeah.
It's entertaining, and it really makes a lot of sense, and everybody gets it. Yeah, I love those.
Is that the one with Mona Lisa?
Yes.
And yes, yes, yes. And well, that's the whole point, because, talking about breast cancer and knowing the signs and things like that can be so boring and it can be
Yeah.
so like, why does this apply to me?
Mm,
And, even if they never do get breast cancer, there are a couple things.
mhm.
They're going to know somebody who is going to
Oh,
get
yeah.
it,
Yep.
whether that be a sister, a brother, an aunt, and
Yeah.
whatever. But it's always really good to have be armed with education before you're ever even diagnosed.
Yeah.
And because so many of these folks are just getting diagnosed and they know nothing. And
Yeah.
so I'm just so happy to hear that
Yeah.
you are using the Know Your Lemons.
Education is huge, and I think that, you know, that's one of our core values, education and, whether it's through the videos on the bus or, we have little pamphlets and flyers and handouts and things like that. And really that's so important now because there's so much misinformation out there.
Mhm.
It's gotten insane.
Yes, definitely. So I do want to hit on some of those misconceptions. I see it all the times, things like
Mhm.
mammograms causing cancer or people
Ugh.
thinking ultrasounds replace mammogram. Can you help clear this up for people? And where is all of this misinformation coming from?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, I'll talk about where it's coming from next because, I think we all have some ideas, and social media is one of the worst places
Yeah.
probably. But just as far as the facts go, I mean, like I don't know where this is coming from. Mammograms cause cancer.
Yeah.
I see that all the time. Like, no, being alive causes cancer. I mean,
It's
period.
true.
Right? Mammograms detect it so you can live longer. I mean, and it's a no-brainer. Is there a small dose of radiation? Absolutely, but there's also small doses of radiation from the outside. If mammograms cause cancer and that's the cause, then why are 35-year-olds that have never had it, or the 60-year-old baseline mammogram who never had it? I mean, it's just it's an absurd argument. It's almost like flat Earth to me, but I don't know
Yeah.
how people believe it. Um, and I'll talk about the radiation one. So this one's kind of interesting. This is the way I think of it. So there's a country in Iran called Ramsar, and they have very high natural levels of background radiation just in the earth, uranium, stuff like that. So high that it's the equivalent of a person who just lives there normally getting 500 to 600 mammograms a year.
Whoa.
Yeah, 2 a day.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
from background levels of radiation. So, of course, right? So, surely they're gonna have higher breast cancer or
Right.
thyroid cancer. They don't.
They don't.
0. 0. They've studied it. No, nothing at all. So, I mean, the body has a way of taking care of low levels of radiation. I mean, radiation isn't everything,
Mm.
and it's all around us every day. Right now, you and I are getting it. I just think that's a way overblown argument, to the point to where it's become hysterical, in culture.
Mhm.
A day can't go by where we advertise, "Hey, we're gonna be in this location," or something without somebody commenting, you know, "Stay away, this is gonna kill you," and, I don't know if half of it's like Russian bots or something, or if it's just real people sometimes, but
No.
just
Yeah,
like,
it's
it's
real
crazy.
people,
Yeah.
Ryan. It's
Yeah.
real people. I know people here in Reno who say it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, you can eat
Yeah.
a banana
Yeah.
and get radiation."
Yeah, there's radiation in bananas, yeah.
But thank you for arming me for that other
Yeah.
argument about Iran
Yeah.
because, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
seriously, and they have a low amount of breast cancer there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just the same as everybody,
interesting.
it's a normal background. Yep. Yeah.
So, and this leads to my next question.
Mhm.
People are either delaying or they're skipping. So how dangerous is it when people start doing that because of that?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, this is one of the things that we're gonna have to combat, because of that. I mean,
Mhm,
obviously, it can cost you your life, and it does cost people their life a lot, unfortunately, and I've seen it time and time again in personal stories, and it's
mhm.
sad. And usually then it's like, "God, I wish I had known better," or, everybody changes their mind. Everybody's like, "Oh, I don't wanna," but when that time comes, most people flip and, they have a change of heart and it's like reality hits. It's just sad that it can't be avoided before that. Because, even skipping a year, the tumors that are diagnosed, even just by skipping 1 year, bigger tumors, later
Yep.
stage, more likely to be node positive, more likely to be metastatic. And so, I think it's important to you just every year, just got to do it.
Mm.
And so we've got to make it easy, you
We
know,
do.
and put it where people are and make
Yeah.
it easy and make it fun. And if we do that, then we'll be successful. And until we do that, and get out of this mindset of, well, you have to come to me, you have to jump through the hoops. You've got to bring me the script. You go bring me your priors. We're too busy. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And you do everything. We'll never be successful.
Right, right. It is so frustrating,
Yeah.
and that's true. I had my mammogram and ultrasound late June of 2021. And
Hmm.
it was early June of 2022 when I got the reminder that it was time for me to go and get my mammogram. And I did pick up the phone and told them, "Hey, I just got this reminder," and they asked me if I'd felt anything, and I said no, which was BS. I just
Hmm.
thought it was, I don't know. I just thought, "Oh, well, I'm gonna get my mammogram and my ultrasound. If there's anything there, they'll see it." But I did actually have to call them back because my husband reminded me that, "Yeah, you do actually have a lump." So I
Yeah.
did call them back, and
Yeah.
they moved my mammogram up by 3 weeks. But
Hmm.
my point here is that they detected nothing late June of 2021, and by the
Hmm.
time I got my mammogram less than a year later, it was
Hmm.
stage 2.
Wow.
So it was
Yeah.
aggressive,
Yeah.
so you're right. I mean, skipping and then, what is the organization who's now saying that only every 2 years? Uh
USPSTF, the United States
Yes.
Preventative Service Task Force. Yeah, that one's sad.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about that? Sad and what?
Well, so their basis it comes down to a value judgment on the value of life, because they admit if we screen every 2 years, yes, we do admit that more people will die. I mean, they've admitted that, but
Wow.
they say it's just not worth all the harm from the false positives and all the extra things that come with it. And so it's a value judgment, right? And so at the end of the day, who's making that judgment? And so I think most professional organizations and largely in practice right now, everybody just says, get it every year.
Yeah.
What harm does it do, right? Maybe there'll be an extra biopsy. Maybe there'll be moments of anxiety and worry. But here's the thing: why not address that? Right? Why? And instead of saying, well, let's stretch it out 2 years to
Right.
just why don't we address that through education and through give patients control, internal locus of control, all these
Mhm.
things that decrease anxiety and everything else, and then it's not such a bad part of the whole process.
Right.
Make
Well,
the biopsies easy, make it not hurt, make it quick, that kind
right.
of thing.
Well, and also, when you have that kind of recommendation, is like this new standard of care, that's what most people listen to,
Yes.
especially if they haven't been educated about breast
Yeah.
cancer and the signs and things like that,
Yeah.
which there are a lot. And this is what we're
Right.
working on, is to make sure we're bringing that education. But when you have a message like that,
Hmm.
and people are like, "Oh,
Yeah.
well," I mean, there's some people who are like, "Nope, I'm gonna get it every year,"
Right.
but even if they wanna get it every year and now we have this new standard of care, that's gonna drive what insurance companies are gonna pay for,
Oh yeah. Hmm.
because they might say, "No, the standard is this, we're not gonna pay for your mammogram
Right.
every year." That's
Correct.
scary.
It is scary, and they're playing with fire, and I think everybody knows it. And the more internal disagreements that you have and publicly disclose, and you cause confusion, and
Mhm.
compliance decreases. And another thing, so they talk about, oh well, compliance is like 80%, but they only measure every 2 years. If you measure yearly compliance, it's like 50%,
Yeah.
and that's misleading. And I think that also takes it out of sight, out of mind. Oh, we've got it taken care of. It's at 80%. It's not. Let's be realistic.
Yeah, yeah, I know, gosh. So let's go back to this women between 35 and 40. You shared
Mhm.
something really surprising, that we're seeing similar cancer rates in women 35 to 40. What
Mhm.
does that mean for how we should be thinking about screening and education, especially for younger women? And
Yeah.
I know we touched on this earlier, I would really like to be able to put a video clip of you and I talking about this out to
Yeah.
my audience because, my audience knows that I'm about to launch this MBA, My Best Act initiative for our
Mhm.
university aged people, right?
Mhm.
Like in sororities or wherever those young folks are.
Right.
And I just got off of a Know Your Lemons global webinar, and
Mhm.
I was really inspired by a couple of the gals that were talking on there about
Mhm.
what they're doing in their own communities to reach those younger folks. So
Yeah, I
tell us
think
all
at
the
some
things.
point we're gonna have to take another look at what's actually happening, deeper than what we've been doing so far. But I mean, there have been enough studies that have been coming out that have shown that the incidence of breast cancer in younger women is increasing
Mhm.
significantly. And of course, those are if you think about it, it's kind of sad because they tend to be the more aggressive cancers, first off. And then, these are the
Mhm.
mothers, young children,
Yep.
with lots of life years left to give.
Mhm.
And so we have to be very focused on that. And I don't know if we should be lowering the breast cancer screening age or be at least talking about it. In my opinion, we should, based on the data that we see. And granted, this is just one anecdotal study. We need to actually get more and more data to prove this. But what we've seen in our practice, no difference in the 35 to 40-year-old age group between the 40 and 50, which, is crazy to me.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to see that. Uh,
Yeah, I didn't either. And most of the survivors I interview on this podcast
yeah,
were all in their 20s and 30s.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's just insane. And
yeah.
some of them were pregnant at the time.
Yes. That's
So
another
which
one,
is
pregnancy-associated breast cancer, and,
yeah.
just we're seeing it all the time, and, and that one's sad too because it's children and, just ugh,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, some of these, like my husband and I, we had been married for 18 years at the time,
Mhm.
and I just said, "I guess that just gives a whole new look at what it means to be with each other through sickness and in health," right? And that's actually the title of our interview that we did together about marriage and
Oh, wow.
cancer diagnosis
Oh,
and
cool.
stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, my friend John, interviewed me. I think it's like episode, I don't know, 10 or
Oh,
something. I can't
okay.
remember.
I'll have
Way
to look
back
through
in the
it.
day. But I mean, I've interviewed women who had just gotten married, like, you
Yeah.
know, 2 years prior or something like that. It's like, wow, we didn't know it was going to happen this fast. Like, yeah, because it does. It takes a
Yeah.
toll on marriages, even if you have a
Oh,
really
yeah.
good foundation.
Yep.
My husband and I fought a few times about some things when I was going through
Sure.
chemo. I'm
Sure.
like, What's going
Yeah.
on here?"
Yeah.
We're okay now, though. um, we did a lot of therapy.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh, okay, so if you could teach one thing about breast health to every woman, what would it be?
Well, I think the big one that I really, really want to get across, and we're seeing a lot of misconceptions and misunderstanding about this one now, and it's taking off. And so I see it accelerating, is this concept about the importance of ultrasound. But which is great because, dense breast tissue, it's
Yeah.
harder to see in a mammogram, so mammogram sensitivity
Mhm.
decreases, and so we want to supplement with screening breast ultrasound to
Mhm.
make up for that small deficiency in the mammography. But what's happening is people are saying, well, then I'm just going to go straight to the ultrasound and I
Yep.
don't want the mammogram. And that cannot be further than from the truth. And so like, for example, first of all, mammography sees everything, right? Little areas of tissue that aren't going to be picked up by the
Mhm.
ultrasound or that are technologist dependent. You can't miss it on the mammogram. It's
Mhm.
there. It's a portrait. It's a layout, right? But DCIS, the earliest stages with microcalcifications, they're not going to be seen on a screening breast ultrasound. Can they be? Theoretically, yes, in some cases, but especially the small ones, no, you'll never see it.
Mhm.
So you're going to be missing those. And there are certain types of cancers, like a mucinous carcinoma, which is kind of a cancer where it just blends in with the background tissue on
Yeah.
ultrasound. You're not going to see that, but it's going to stand out on a mammogram. So at the end of the day, I think we still have to place the important. And the other thing too is there are a lot of companies getting involved in this, private equity companies, because they're like, well, it's not regulated by the FDA. It's not mammography, right? It's ultrasound. And we have this, and we're going to advertise no radiation. no compression, comfortable. And then, yeah, in fine print at the very bottom, we're going to put where nobody sees it, not a substitute for mammography. And so they're luring people in with these. And then, of
Hmm.
course, then you get the person that, um, mammography didn't see anything, ultrasound found mine. And that's all
Hmm.
so there's no context behind it. And people are like, oh, well, the ultrasound must be the way to go. And so I think we really need to express the importance of mammography and ultrasound, not one or
Yep.
the other.
Yep.
So
Thank
that would be
you.
the one piece of education that I would want everybody to know. And it's especially important for the younger ones because they're the ones that have the this breast issue.
Yep, and I will make sure that this is amplified over and over
Excellent.
again. I
Excellent.
actually do know people who we have a CT van, I think in Nevada that comes
Mhm.
around, or an ultrasound. I think it's
Yeah.
an ultrasound one, and
Yeah. We have them in Florida too.
there are people who that they were like, "Oh my god, I get to go do this. If you don't want to go get smashed, you can do this."
Right.
And I'm
That's
always like, you know what, though? You need to
right.
do both because I know that on my breast cancer, I
Mhm.
know that on the mammography, I think it was that they saw the groupings of
Yeah.
calcifications, and
Yeah.
on the ultrasound, they saw the associated mass.
Right.
So they did not see the calcifications on the ultrasound.
Right.
And my doctor did say, look, you have calcifications here, which is normal. Like
Mhm.
there are calcifications. It's when they see groupings of them is when
Yeah.
they become concerned. So,
Yes.
um,
Exactly.
now, did you listen to the episode with Gnosis for Her?
No, I didn't listen to that one. I listened
Okay.
to the movie doc.
Oh, the booby doc. I love her. She's great. So, I interviewed, there's a company called Gnosis for Her, and
Yeah.
it is like a 3D CT,
Mhm.
which, I guess is new technology that is
Mhm.
in California area
Mhm.
where they can see everything.
Mhm.
Listen to that one. I'll send you
Okay.
the episode. It's pretty cool
Yeah.
because I would love to hear your feedback on that.
Okay.
Um, and they are definitely not saying, "Oh, for other things that you don't need mammogram." Because
Right.
I think I was very specific with maybe you as well. I was very specific about I wanna make sure that everyone understands that these different screenings need to be done,
Yeah.
both of them. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Excellent.
okay, so if someone is listening right now has been putting off their mammograms, what would you say to them? And what do you really want people to understand about early detection?
E Hang in there until everything changes and it's easier, but until then, make the effort. Just do it. You know what I see some people do, and it seems to be really effective for them, is the ones that I see tend to get the mammogram every year is people that get it on their birthday or around their birthday. And, it's kind of, they can say a gift to me or whatever kind of thing, which however you think about it. But it's like, man, I looked at the last 5 years, you haven't skipped everything, but it was right on your birthday every single
Yep.
time.
Yep.
So something that works for you. I think that's a useful, powerful trick.
Yeah.
And just don't delay, make the effort, screw everybody else that has something that they need from you and just do it for yourself. Be a little
Yeah.
self.
And there were some people who had to put theirs off because of COVID. I did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because I used to get mine in October, my birthday month every
Uh,
year.
yeah.
And then it became June. I'm just thinking to myself, my God, what if I would have gotten breast cancer between October and June?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I know that I have
Yeah.
interviewed people who got breast cancer during COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Uh,
eh,
they were. I remember working in a facility, and we were doing biopsies and everything through COVID. And they're like, "Well, I don't feel comfortable. Let's cancel that." I said, "No, don't do that. Right?
yeah,
Don't just
yeah,
cancel the biopsies in this." So we ended up doing them anyways, and thankfully we did. And I think that was the
yeah.
right thing in retrospect. But at the time, there was a lot of hysteria.
Yeah,
So
there was definitely I mean, speaking of hysteria, that was a crazy
yeah, it was.
period of time. A lot of
Yeah,
disinformation out
yeah,
there, and
yeah,
oh my god,
yeah,
still
yeah,
is all it's a kind of astounding these days, all of the hysterias, like, it was the underbelly that just sort of exposed itself, and it
yeah,
never went away, and I so
yeah,
w so we need to combat
yeah,
this misinformation and
yeah.
disinformation, online because that's
Yes,
where it is. Yeah,
yes. Things
yeah.
just like this, I think they help so much.
Well, I'm excited at the fact that you are going into the school districts, and I wish there was a way that we could have more of what you're doing in other states. I know that there are in like some around other states, but hopefully there'll be
We
more.
needed it, and we need it at mass scale.
Yeah.
in my opinion. And if we
Yeah.
do that, we'll have a healthier country, and we'll save money. We'll save time. People will be happier. So maybe,
Uh, And I do think it's really important for people to know that there are people who don't want to save money. They don't want a healthy country.
yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
so just to be aware of it, it's so obvious. I just think
Well,
people need to be aware of that.
you do need to be like, here's a good example, very small scale. If you have a screening mammogram and it needs to be converted to a diagnostic, something is seen, correct? If you do it right then and there on the same day, you get paid once. But if you bring them back the next day or the next week, you get paid twice. So
Ah,
what happens, in the real world in practice? So there's an incentive for, making it more difficult. Again,
sure.
that traditional system. And so, yeah, we have to be aware of those things.
Well, this has been such a great conversation.
Yeah.
I am thoroughly appreciative of
Yeah.
your expertise and what you're doing in Florida.
Thanks. Mhm.
Is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap up today?
No, get screened. We'll see you. We'll see you in your state soon.
Great. I'm so glad. Well, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate
Yeah.
your time. And
Yeah.
to my audience, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of
Yeah.
Test Those Breasts. And we will see you next time.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Friends, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Test Those Breasts. I hope you got some great, much needed information that will help you with your journey. As always, I am open to guests to add value to my show, and I'm also open to being a guest on other podcasts where I can add value. So please reach out if you'd like to collaborate. My contact information is in the show notes. And as a reminder, rating, reviewing, and sharing this podcast will truly help build a bigger audience all over the world. I thank you for your efforts. I look forward to sharing my next episode of Test Those Breasts.